Imagine your closest ally suddenly declaring you their worst enemy and vowing to wipe your home off the face of the earth. Sounds like a thriller plot, but that's exactly what happened between Iran and Israel. Did you know that before 1979, these countries were so close that Israel helped Iran build its energy infrastructure, and Iranian oil was the backbone of the Israeli economy? Today, their standoff is the most dangerous spot on the world map. This isn't just a territorial dispute. They don't even share a border. It's a total war of ideologies, espionage, and nuclear ambitions. We will break down how strategic partnership turned into irreconcilable hatred and why the entire world is holding its breath today, awaiting their direct clash. In this video, we will trace the path from the secret alliances of Shah's Iran to modern cyber attacks and the shadow war that has lasted 45 years. Every detail of this story is saturated with espionage, political intrigue, and the struggle for regional dominance. Get ready, we are starting a deep dive into the history of a great feud.
Few remember, but Iran was the second Muslim country to recognize the State of Israel. In the 50s and 60s, they were united by the so-called Periphery Doctrine. Both nations felt threatened by radical Arab regimes and decided to be friends over the heads of common enemies. It was a time of incredible cooperation. Israeli engineers built irrigation systems and airfields in Iran. Iran's agriculture rose thanks to Israeli technology. In return, Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi provided Israel with oil when Arab countries declared a boycott. Intelligence services, the Iranian SAVAK and the Israeli Mossad, worked as a single mechanism, exchanging data on Soviet influence and Arab movements. Israeli El Al planes operated regular flights to Tehran, and Israelis walked freely through Iranian markets. It was a golden age where economy and security stood above religion. But beneath this foundation, contradictions were already beginning to accumulate, which would soon lead to catastrophe.
In 1979, the world shuddered. The Islamic Revolution in Iran swept away the Shah's regime. Ayatollah Khomeini came to power, his ideology built on a harsh rejection of the West and Israel. Overnight, Tehran transformed from a close ally into a most fierce enemy. Israel was declared the Little Satan, and its destruction became the official goal of the new Islamic Republic. Diplomatic relations were severed instantly. The Israeli embassy building in Tehran was seized and ceremoniously handed over to the Palestine Liberation Organization. Khomeini used anti-Zionism as a tool to unite the Muslim world around Iran. It was the point of no return. For Israel, this meant the loss of its main oil supplier and the transformation of the region's most powerful army into an existential threat. An era of enmity began, where ideological dogmas became more important than economic gain. It was then that the Middle East split into before and after, laying the foundation for all future wars.
Since Iran and Israel are separated by thousands of kilometers and other countries, their confrontation has moved into a long drawn-out shadow war. In the early 80s, Hezbollah emerged in Lebanon with direct support from Tehran. It became Iran's primary tool against the Jewish state. Over time, Iran built an entire network of allies known as the Axis of Resistance. It included Hamas and Islamic Jihad in Gaza, Shiite militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen. Iran's strategy is simple. Surround Israel with a ring of fire using proxies. Tehran supplies missiles, drones, and billions of dollars while formally staying on the sidelines. Israel is forced to spend colossal resources on the Iron Dome system and conduct endless special operations on foreign territories to intercept weapon shipments. This is a war of attrition where Lebanon, Syria, and Gaza have turned into testing grounds for Iranian technology and Israeli defense. Every missile launched from abroad is an echo of decisions made in Tehran's offices. This invisible network has spanned the entire region, making any spark a potential start of a major war. The most dangerous turn of the conflict is linked to Iran's nuclear ambitions. For Israel, an Iran with a nuclear bomb is a threat to the nation's very existence. Tehran claims to pursue peaceful nuclear energy, but Jerusalem is convinced otherwise. Over the past 20 years, we have witnessed an unprecedented secret war. In 2010, the Stuxnet virus, believed to be developed by Israel and the US, disabled thousands of Iranian centrifuges. It was the world's first large-scale cyber sabotage. This was followed by a series of mysterious assassinations of Iranian nuclear physicists right on the streets of Tehran. In 2018, Mossad conducted the boldest operation in its history. Agents stole 500 tons of secret documents from Iran's nuclear archive. Israel showed the world that Iran had hidden the military component of its program for years. Iran responds with sabotage on Israeli ships and cyber attacks on civilian infrastructure. This is a confrontation on the edge. Every new Iranian achievement in uranium enrichment forces Israeli generals to prepare plans for a preemptive strike. The world is held hostage by this race of technology and nerves.
The modern war between Israel and Iran is fought not only with missiles, but also with bits of information. Cyberspace has become a front where attacks happen daily. In 2020, Iranian hackers tried to breach Israel's water system to alter chlorine levels and cause mass poisoning. Israel responded instantly. A massive cyber attack completely paralyzed Iran's largest port, Bandar Abbas, creating miles-long ship traffic jams. Later, hackers linked to Israel shut down the fuel sales system across Iran, leaving millions without gasoline. This is a war without official declarations, where ordinary citizens become targets. Hospitals, power plants, banking systems, everything is in the crosshairs. Iran invests billions in its cyber forces, trying to compensate for its technological lag in conventional aviation. Israel, being a global cyber power, uses its top units like 8200 for preemptive hacking of enemy networks. In this digital chaos, the boundaries between peace and war are practically erased, and the consequences of one successful virus can be more catastrophic than a bombing.
Syria has become the main battlefield where Iran and Israel clash directly, yet without an official declaration of war. Iran is using the Syrian civil war to establish a foothold right at Israel's borders. Tehran is building military bases, missile warehouses, and drone airfields there. The goal is clear: to create a bridgehead for a future attack. Israel responded with the war between wars strategy. For 10 years, the Israeli Air Force has conducted hundreds of airstrikes on Iranian targets on Syrian soil. Jerusalem methodically destroys convoys of precision-guided weapons intended for Hezbollah. Iranian generals are killed in pinpoint strikes on secret headquarters in Damascus. This cat-and-mouse game peaked when Iran began deploying air defense systems to protect its bases. Every attack carries the risk of a direct clash that could draw major world powers into the conflict. The Syrian sky has become the arena for the most complex and dangerous confrontation of modern times, where any error by a pilot or missile operator could ignite the entire Middle East.
When the land became too dangerous, the war between Iran and Israel moved to the ocean. Global trade routes have turned into a combat zone. Since 2019, dozens of commercial vessels linked to both countries have suffered mysterious attacks. Iran targets tankers in the Gulf of Oman using magnetic mines and kamikaze drones. Israel, in turn, strikes Iranian ships carrying oil and weapons to Syria. This is a war of ghosts. Combat divers stealthily attach explosives to ship hulls in ports, and missiles strike out of nowhere in the open sea. Economic damage is in the billions, but the primary goal is psychological pressure. Every attack is a signal to the enemy of their vulnerability. Iran threatens to close the Strait of Hormuz, through which a third of the world's oil passes, potentially causing a global energy crisis. Israel demonstrates that its navy and special forces can reach the enemy anywhere in the world's oceans. The sea has ceased to be safe, becoming yet another front in an endless confrontation.
On April 14, 2024, the rules of the game changed forever. Decades of shadow war ended when Iran launched its first direct massive strike on Israel from its own territory. More than 300 drones and missiles were fired toward the Jewish state. The world stood still, awaiting a nuclear apocalypse. Israel, supported by a coalition of allies, intercepted 99% of the targets, demonstrating the technological superiority of its air defenses. However, the very fact of Tehran's direct attack crossed a red line. Israel's response was surgically precise. A strike on an air defense base near the Natanz nuclear site showed Iran that its most protected infrastructure is vulnerable. The direct exchange of strikes elevated the conflict to a new, extremely dangerous level. Now, any provocation by proxy groups could lead to a full-scale war between the region's two most powerful militaries. The masks are off. Iran and Israel no longer hide behind their allies. They look each other in the eye through the sights of their ballistic missiles. The world holds its breath in anticipation of a major war. But why haven't Israel and Iran delivered a decisive final blow to each other yet? The answer lies in the so-called balance of fear. The final secret: both sides are well aware that in a full-scale conflict, there will be no winners. Israel possesses the most modern aviation in the world, and, as leading military experts suggest, a powerful nuclear arsenal, officially unacknowledged, but terrifying to its enemies. Iran, on the other hand, has a trump card in the form of missile cities deep underground and hundreds of thousands of loyal fighters across the Middle East ready to attack simultaneously at the first signal. This is a 21st century stalemate, where the price of one mistake is the total destruction of the region and the instant collapse of the entire global economy. A direct clash would turn flourishing cities into radioactive ruins in just a few hours. That is why the war remains shadowy. Israel continues its pinpoint assassinations, while Iran builds influence through proxies, trying not to cross that very line beyond which inevitable self-destruction begins. It is a great confrontation of nerves, technology, and will, where silence sometimes sounds much louder than explosions. The story of their enmity is not over, but today it is this mutual fear that keeps the planet from a global catastrophe. Take care and watch the world as it changes before our very eyes.